on this? Seeing none, we'll bring it back to the commission.
Move to approve as proposed.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Raines, second by Commissioner Wallace. Any more discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, motion passed unanimous. Item 23, commission meeting and future commission meetings and commission committee assignments.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
the item shows 2015 as well as 14, and I didn't know if you had any comments relative to 2015.
Yeah, anybody have, we'll stop here for just a second. 15 was there, it wasn't posted on the video, but we approved it as presented by the department, so that covered 2014 and 15. Everybody good with that? Okay, we're all good. Thank you. We're good. Okay, committee assignments. I need to get Dr. Lane on a couple of committees, and I had some discussion with her, and one of the committees she would be interested in serving as a finance committee. And so we'll get her on the finance committee. And then the other one, you're going to have to help me out here. The meeting that you had yesterday, the one we argue over the name, what is the name of your committee? The animal damage?
No, Wildlife Damage Management Committee.
Okay, Ms. Lane will also go on to that one. That one was previously a 3-member committee, and we have found with 3-member committees working through big issues such as the one that we're facing on that committee, those become cumbersome with 3-member committees. I really don't like having 4-member committees because then you can have split votes. I am going to find a 5th to sit on that committee also. So Dr. Lane will be 1, and I will look for a 5th to balance that committee back out. So do you have any comments on that, Ms. Lane? Okay. Commissioner.
Just wanted to, I would like to work with the department on the policy 25. Any issues with me working directly with the department and trying to pull that draft together?
I would love you to do that.
Okay.
Somebody needs to, and I'm glad you volunteered. Any other comments on committee assignments? It is an action item, so we'll take it out to the public. Gil?
Gil Yannick speaking as chairman of the Finance Committee. Then we'll have 4 on the Finance Committee.
We will also discuss that one.
Thank you.
So, you know, sometimes when we originally put committees together, having a committee of 3 made fiscal responsible sense. But having sat on committees with 3 people, it really hamstrings you. You can't even talk to another person. So with to stay within open meeting law, 3-member committees are extremely difficult. So I'll work with you, Gil, and we'll get there also. We'll look for a volunteer. Anybody else have anything? Commissioner Lane, you have any comments? All right. Future commission meetings, do you have anything to add, Mr. Tsukamoto?
You have scheduled for April to be determined, so we'll have to pick a date or dates.
I think the date was picked as the 5th at this location. I think Kim Jolly already gave us that along with Suzanne. I believe it is the 5th, this location. We just, okay. And do we have a time selected?
What Kim had reported is that we had this room reserved for all day.
Till 9.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, so we need to have everybody check their calendars and make sure that
9 o'clock?
That's a Friday, just FYI. So, yeah.
I think in my world, afternoon works better than morning.
I'm going to be coming from the NBU.
So that's just my world. It might work better in everybody else's world for morning, so.
Lunchtime's always good for me, but whatever. Does that work? Doing something wrong.
Yeah. Somebody throw out a time, let's make a motion and get this going.
1 o'clock?
Is that your motion?
I'll make a motion, Mr. Chairman. We do it at 1 o'clock on the 5th, telephonically.
Public comment.
Rex Flowers, I believe April 5th is the NBU dinner, so you can get it earlier rather than later so that that portion of the public can be here to weigh in on legislation. That's a really big event, supports the department extremely well. And I'm not a member of their board or anything, I'm just a member of NBU, so I know when it is, okay? Thank you.
1 o'clock still should accommodate that. Well, what do we anticipate in a couple hours? We might need to go earlier than 1 o'clock to make the dinner. Gil?
Gil Yana, Carson Advisory Board. If we're going to have cab representation and be able to give the cab's opinion on some of this legislation, requires a meeting prior to the 5th. And we have to notice it properly prior to that, and some of the cabs may have difficulty getting their normal meeting location at a schedule like this, because it was a meeting that it was programmed, but I don't think anybody took it seriously or, did anything about it. I'm going to contact our secretary right away to see if the room that we use is available. I'm pretty sure it will be, but I don't know about all the other cabs having to be able to put together a meeting before that Friday.
Okay, thank you.
Second that motion.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor of April 5th, 1 o'clock, signify by saying aye. 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 All those opposed? Okay, motion passed unanimous. We're moving on to item 24, public comment. If you have a speaker card filled out, please get it up here.
Gil Yana, Carson Advisory Board. At our last CAB meeting, I had some questions that address the litigation report that we see in the schedule agenda every time. And one of the committee members said, I keep seeing these same litigations going on, particularly the one between the rights, water rights that the Paiute tribe is trying to change, the usage of the amount of water that's available. And they just asked if I would ask, does the AG's office have any opinion as to the probability of their prevailing in any of these litigations? Or is that can't be discussed while this is still pending?
As far as they continue to be the same readout and they just seem to go on and on, I guess my answer would be 4 simple words. Welcome to our world.
Okay.
My understanding of that case is that the tribe is currently attempting a settlement, but that's not being driven by our office, so I don't know what the timeframes are on that. I can check if asked to do so, and I'm not handling that, so I don't know the ins and outs of that particular matter. But yeah, they do tend to just somewhat drag on.
Thank you.
Dr. Lent.
I had something out before I start my time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For the record, Jerry Lent from Nevada Hunters. I just handed out some emails I got from Idaho Fish and Game, and it's titled Idaho and Fish and Game Feeling the Pain. And they're talking about what's the problem in Idaho, and they were saying that it's a combination of their predator policy, some winter kill, and gross mismanagement. And Idaho's losing thousands of non-residents' dollars because the non-residents refuse to hunt there anymore. And after losing all this revenue, you would think heads would roll, but that hasn't happened in Idaho. And Idaho Fish and Game admits to a $9.4 million license tag shortfall since 2008. Notable that hunters are the primary revenue generator for this department. Without hunter interest and willingness to purchase license tags, the Fish and Game Department is currently, as it's currently formed, will eventually cease to exist. Wildlife management philosophy in which predators are treated equally in many cases prioritized over the previous adopted policy, which was the surplus management of game animals. This inclusive policy has changed the landscape and the very predator-prey balance in our state. It is highly detrimental to our once plentiful game population and is allowing large predator populations not only to prosper, to explode in our state. These exploding predator populations are responsible for the largest decline in several decades of our once plentiful state harvestable game animals. And from Boise, the last one is a news article. State Fish and Game officials say tag sales aren't keeping up with Idaho's population growth, and that's affecting their budgets. And so they went to the Senate Resources and Environmental Committee with an idea of selling 3-year hunting and fishing license, and hope the decline in revenue will be made that'll be made up, particularly in hunting tags sold to non-residents. And they're only pushing the problem down the road 3 years. And one of the things, publicly exposing your deer problems, like this article I saw in the minutes, like this article in Muley Crazy, it may show up as Nevada's problem also when it starts. Nevada deer herds are doomed. And I've talked to this commission before, and I don't see your concern for our deer herds like we're talking about with the mine. You consistently ignore the real deer data. We are overkilling our deer. The model is flawed, and I showed you graphs to show every region in the state except 2, the deer herds from Endow's hunt books are going down. The model is flawed. And it's really interesting. I don't know if you realize, I apologize I didn't bring it up, but the chief of game admitted at the Washoe County CAB meeting, all the lion model has been flawed all these years, and they had to make an adjustment on it. The lion model that we've been using to set our population goals has been flawed. So I say, why don't we look at the deer model and get it out of there? There's some deer model specialists in the country. And the deer model that we have now can be adjusted for any results that Endow wants. And you guys don't seem to care, and I've already told you before, but I really think that you guys should take some interest in the deer like you claim you do. And all you gotta do is model it. If it's working great, you're gonna get a hero's badge. If it's working bad, then we can go back and fix it to make it better. The same we did with the tag draw. But anyway, those are my comments. I hope you take that and take a look at when they finally admitted the deer model is flawed. After all these years, we've been stating our deer quotas, and it's finally admitted it was flawed. You know, we're taking kittens into effect. And it took the University of Nevada to figure that out. Thank you.
Who's next? Joe?
For the record, Joe Blakeslee, just speaking on behalf of myself. I wanted to comment on the wild horses. The question was asked a while ago, what can be done about that. Well, there's a Senate joint resolution in the legislature right now that has language about horses. Both wildlife coalitions have suggested a friendly amendment to that to say that we're okay with that joint resolution as long as the horses are managed at appropriate management levels. I think that's very reasonable, and I think it's a good way to send a message on wild horses. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Rex?
Rex Flower Speed on behalf of myself. Transportation permit that you passed today, and I talked to a couple of commissioners, is a great thing, except that this coming up shortly, we will have the non-resident guided hunt draw. Those tags are issued a week after, or approximately a week after, and I've talked to system consultants. They'll be on the old stock, so I would hope that maybe at the May meeting, NDOW can come back with some resolution that those people can get a transportation permit, maybe relinquish the tags that they've been given and another one issued to them, because most of those people are traveling quite a bit. Thank you.
Thank you. Maureen's already has a solution.
I just texted Rob to see if I could hold those tags from being printed until we're ready to print in the new format. So we're going to try to work it out. I know the guides meet this coming week. If they're amenable to us not printing them until later on, just sending a notice to the tag holders that the reason why, I suggest that might be a solution. So we're looking into it.
Thank you. Come on up.
For the record, Eric Petlock, Theodore Roosevelt Conservation Partnership. I was at the meeting on Thursday of the discuss this Bald Mountain Mine proposal, and quite frankly, I'm shocked by what I heard at that meeting. I was particularly distressed by Commissioner Rain's unabashed lobbying for the mine project as a member of a commission that is supposed to be charged with managing and protecting the state's wildlife, to come out with such a shameless promotion of this project, and some of the statements that were made that showed a level of ignorance of science that was appalling to me. I feel like that this project is not, they're not asking them to shut down the mine. They're not asking them to do something that's unreasonable. They're asking them to follow basic science and basic wildlife management principles and let that drive the decision-making process rather than economic interests of one particular user of public land. I think that in talking with some of the people that were directly involved in this process, it's quite clear that the Department of Wildlife staff are being basically told what to say and not being allowed to speak freely of their opinion based on their education and training as biologists. I think this is another appalling situation that, quite frankly, needs to be brought to the public attention. I think that the fact that the barrack has showed a level of arrogance in their approach to dealing with the department and dealing with the biologists and the science that are involved in this project, again, is appalling. And I think that this body, who is charged with protecting and managing the wildlife resources of the state of Nevada, for such an important deer herd, such an important area, we're talking about economics, the economic value to places like Elko County of hunting that has to be weighed along with other economic values. The fact that this is a public trust resource and that it needs to be managed. I think that I took a kind of an informal poll of a number of sportsman leaders in the state at Safari Club banquet last night, and I think there's a pretty unanimous sense of outrage at the way this thing is being handled right now. And I would like to encourage this body to take a serious look at what's going on and do your duty as, as commissioners and as those charged with managing our state wildlife resources to, to speak out and say that we need to follow the best science, and we need to make sure that there's an adaptive management program in place for this project. I said it before and I'll say it again. Commissioner Rain, I hope you're right. I hope your opinion that this project's not going to have any adverse effect on this deer herd, I hope that you're right. But if you're wrong, we need to have a plan in place to deal with that. And I also think that in terms of monitoring and adaptive management, this mining project needs to be, the funds to do that need to come directly from this mining project, not from sportsman dollars, not from other sources. This project needs to pay for the monitoring, the mitigation, and any cost associated with the project. They pulled 160,000 ounces of gold out of there last year. So the idea that somehow this requiring them to maintain these corridors as science would dictate is going to somehow kill this whole project and we're going to lose 500 jobs is complete hyperbole, and I think that needs to be addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? No more public comment? Seeing none, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're adjourned. Thank you.
Yeah.